Welcome back. It's time now for the Word on Wall Street. Top investors watching your money. Joining me now is Unleash Prosperity co-founder and former Trump economic advisor, Steve Moore. Good to see you, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us. Also with us is Mark Tepper this morning. And, Steve, I want to join you into this conversation on markets first. Futures are indicating a decline at the start of trading this morning. The Dow down about 200 right now, down 228. And the Nasdaq down 88. Of course, this after the Dow logged its best day in a year yesterday. Best performance since April 9th last year. Up better than 1,325 points. Almost 3% at the close. The S&P 500, the Nasdaq also up almost 3%. The Nasdaq up 2.8%. The S&P up 2.5%. But this morning, oil prices are back on the rise after U.S. crude posted its best day, its biggest decline since 2020 yesterday. Crude is now at $99.40. That is up 5% this morning. President Trump said that all U.S. military weapons and capabilities will remain in place around Iran until, quote, a real agreement is reached. Peace talks happening this weekend in Islamabad with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. We don't know if J.D. Vance is going to go because of security concerns, which is what the president raised to the New York Post. So we'll see about that. But Iran is tightening control now, once again, over the Strait of Hormuz after Tehran said that Israel violated the ceasefire yesterday. Vessels now reportedly required to coordinate with Iran's Revolutionary Guard, with fees reaching the millions for large tankers. I don't know if that's much different than what they were doing yesterday. Even with the agreement in place yesterday, Steve, they were trying to keep their grip on the Strait of Hormuz. Your reaction to where we are right now?
Well, everything depends, as you all were just talking about when we get the strait open, when those supply chains are flowing again with respect to the oil out of the Middle East. And when that happens, and it will happen, whether it happens tomorrow or next week or in 2 weeks, it will happen. Trump is absolutely committed to that happening. Then you're going to see the oil price drift back down pretty close to where it was before all this began. I mean, remember, we had a booming economy back in January and February of this year. There's no reason we can't get right back on that path. Just wrote a piece for Fox News about how the tax cuts are really kicking in big time for people as they prepare their tax returns. They're seeing nice, increases in the deductions they're getting for overtime, for Social Security, for people taking advantage of all the various elements of the tax bill. So I feel pretty good about where the economy will be. I mean, Trump has done this before. He's rebuilt the economy. He will do it again.
I totally agree with you. Now, by the way, the refunds that you're talking about, the tax refunds, we spoke with Frank Bisignano about this. They're averaging $3,500. That is a nice check.
Yep.
You get a check with $3 grand in the mail. From your tax refund. The only problem, Mark, is that, even though the tax refunds are up, gas prices are up, too. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly an issue. But at the end of the day, you're getting, $3,500 check. That does a lot for consumer spending. And look, my opinion is that when you look at all of the tailwinds we have from a consumer standpoint with the tax refunds, hopefully lower interest rates over the course of the year, I think there's a lot of firepower that we have as an economy to get this thing growing as quickly as possible. And let's not forget, I mean, the fourth quarter GDP number, which came in a little light, was mostly due to the Schumer shutdown. It was due to a pullback in government spending. So I think going forward, we're going to have a much stronger economy. Well,
it's a good point. We're going to get the GDP this morning, so we'll see what kind of a move we get in GDP. But, it's not all even, right? The impact of this war is not even on the states. I spoke with Dan Yergin about this because California has these sky-high dreams about not relying on oil, right? Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom is pushing a new plan. Get this. He wants to boost, quote-unquote, green jet fuel, offering tax credits to producers of lower emissions aviation fuel. Economists are warning the incentives could drive up the price of gas and diesel by as much as 10 to 15 cents a gallon. State officials defending the plan as a key step to cut emissions in aviation, one of the hardest sectors to decarbonize. But, Mark, Gavin Newsom has been trying this a lot, and here's what Dan Yergin told me just last week. Watch this.
California's oil production was a major oil-producing state in 2000. Its production is down by 2/3. So California has become a major importer of oil. 70% of its oil comes from foreign sources, Latin America, Asia, indirectly from the Middle East. So California is more vulnerable, and its gasoline is more expensive to begin with. It has high taxes, and now it is going to feel the impact of the disruption in the markets more than others. Governments rush in to intervene, and often that makes the situation worse, not better. You know, there's still all the myths around the gas lines of a long time ago in the United States. It's sort of like a national memory. Those were not caused by prices. They were caused by government policy, which was allocating gasoline to some areas and taking gasoline away from others. So one big warning here is to avoid, to the degree possible, governments trying to come in and manage the markets in one way or the other to prevent the markets from adjusting in a way that would be most conducive to consumers and the economy. And as long as prices are up, that becomes a bigger risk.
So there you go, Mark. Okay, so once again, we learned policy matters. Okay.
Yes, it does matter. And it's baffling to me that the U.S. as a whole, we are net exporters of oil, but California is importing from Latin America and the Middle East. That's absolutely insane. But, you know, Gavin Newsom's policies right now, I guess it makes sense to me. I'm not surprised, because what he's going to do is when gas prices go up, he's going to blame President Trump. And we all know that he's the one responsible. And at the end of the day, California's policy, whether it's oil or insurance companies, we remember the Pacific Palisades fire from roughly 15 months ago, is to regulate you to death. And when they regulate you to death, there's nothing left. It's a very inefficient way to run an economy. And it's crazy to think that 100 years ago, 40% of U.S. oil came from California. Now it's 2%.
Unbelievable. Well, there's a reason, Steve, that Spencer Pratt is doing well in L.A., running for mayor. We spoke with him on this program last week. And Steve Hilton is doing well, running for governor right now, because policy matters and people get it. Real quick.
Well, listen, I mean, California was the golden state. It always has been. And it's not so gold anymore. I mean, you're seeing billionaires and millionaires leaving the state. You're seeing, by the way, California has more energy than probably any other state in the country besides Alaska and Texas. And now they're having to import it from other countries. You pay $1.50 a gallon more in California than they do in other states. That's not a very good record to run for president on.
We got to jump real quick. We got the PCE and the GDP out this morning, Steve. Your expectations, very, very quickly. We got to go.
I think we're going to see GDP at about 2%.
Okay. Mark, you're with us all morning long. We appreciate that. Steve, great to see you. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Thank you.